everyday witches emerge from the shadows of secrecy. Broom closets are flinging open and witches are taking flight. Whether you are hiding in your cozy closet or flying with pride, stay for a spell as Witchcasting with Theodora Pendragon and her guests share magical moments, stir the cauldron, and debunk misinformation and misconceptions about paganism, witches, and our wonderful world of magic.
Hello, everyone. My special guest today is Sisterwolf, and she is a broom maker and folk craft discipline, and she lives in South Texas, near where I am. Welcome, Sisterwolf.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
You're going to teach us about brooms, and this is a topic I haven't covered yet on this show.
I became interested in broom making about 5 years ago. And I've always been interested in folk craft. I'm primarily a folk magic practitioner. So all things that sort of revolve around tending the hearth and care of the hearth and home are things that deeply appeal to me. And so it felt like a natural transition to find broom making. I started learning on my own and then quickly realized that although you can get a little ways by yourself, broom making is really a craft that you need to learn from the hands of somebody else. And I love that about folk craft. And I love that specifically about folk magic is that so much of it revolves around it being passed down from the hands of one person to another. So I traveled to Appalachia and I learned broom making from a wonderful broom maker in Appalachia. And she pulled me aside after the class and looked me in the eye and said, "You should do this." And sometimes that's all you need, right? Is just for one person to tell you or to affirm this path for you. And I felt it too. I definitely felt my heart's home when I tied my first broom. So I came back to South Texas and continued on that path. And so I made brooms privately for a little while and then publicly started making them and selling them and teaching broom making in 2022.
And you don't just make brooms, you make brooms for different purposes.
I do. One of the things that I try really hard to do, and I see this happen a lot at markets, is we're all familiar with what a broom is. But people will come up to me, and we've so rarely seen a handmade broom that the first question that people ask is, "What are these for?" I don't assign purpose to the brooms. I have watched the way in which the broom chooses the owner. Then its purpose presents itself after that. So I make brooms with the intention that they're going to be used. How they're used is up to the owner. But I really, truly believe that one of the best ways that we engage in ritual and one of the best ways that we can cleanse energy is to sweep. So everything I make is made to be used for sweeping purposes, for cleaning purposes. But I know some people have found some really special ways to use some of my brooms, from using them for smoke cleansing rituals to using them to keep their altars nice and tidy, to some people just using them as threshold protection management. So I think that there's a lot of uses for them. And once the broom chooses you, then you find its place within your home.
Tell us what that means, threshold management.
Some of the deepest folklore about brooms has to do with the threshold of our homes. From keeping a broom over the door of our home in order to protect the energy that comes in and out, to lore surrounding not sweeping the dirt out of your front door, because with it you can be sweeping all matters of good fortune.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so that's actually an Appalachian folklore, is that you shouldn't be sweeping the dirt out of your front door. You should be gathering it to dispose of, because if you sweep it out the door, you can be sweeping away good fortune and wealth with it. There's also lore about not sweeping on New Year's Day for the same reason, that you may be sweeping out all the good fortune that the new year is going to bring. One of my favorite things, though, is if you have an unwanted guest in any room of your home, placing a broom upside down on its handle outside that door can gently encourage that visitor to leave.
I have to try that.
Yeah, it works. It really does work. I've used it a couple of times. But I think there are a few brooms that I make that incorporate iron in different ways. I make some black dyed brooms that I dip in an iron solution afterwards. I also have some brooms that I tie iron nails onto, and those are my favorite threshold brooms because iron is an element that is incredibly protective. So there's a reason why we hang horseshoes over the door in places. And there's a reason why iron is used for the gates around a cemetery, sometimes to keep things in and sometimes to keep things out. So hanging something that has the element of iron and the power of a broom combined over our doorway or near our doorway can be incredibly protective for us.
Your brooms come in many shapes and sizes. They're all adorable. I love your small ones, they're medium ones and tall ones.
Thank you. A lot of the brooms that I make, I consider myself to be a traditional American broom maker. I'm a contemporary broom maker, but a lot of the styles that I make are rooted in traditional Appalachian styles. I love being able to preserve the legacy of broom making in the United States, plus being able to introduce it to a whole new generation of people and practitioners whom I think we've all been socialized to view a broom as an oppressive symbol, especially if we're somebody who has been socialized as a woman or we identify as a woman or as a femme. The broom is sort of this double-edged sword where it represents the oppression of domesticity if we're women who are behaving and know our place. It's also a symbol of oppression for women who are acting out and who aren't adhering to the social norms of the feminine because it's used as a symbol of witchcraft. So either way, it's been bound to us in this sort of oppressive way by people who shouldn't be able to decide what the broom means to us. And so what I try to do with all my styles of broom is to help reframe what it means to engage in domestic labor for specifically women and femmes and people who have been socialized as female, that we are the keepers of the hearth. Domestic labor is a care task and a ritual for nobody else but us. It's not a moral failing to be a bad housekeeper. I have historically not been a good housekeeper, but engaging in making brooms and engaging in the ritual of sweeping has made me redefine what it means to engage in domestic labor in my own home. I now view it as a ritual that I look forward to every day. I sweep every day, not because I'm trying to clean my house, but because it's how I engage in meditation. It's how I engage in ritual with my home and the spirit of my home. And it's how I tend to my hearth. And when I say my hearth, I don't literally mean that. I mean my spiritual hearth. And so my hope is that by having different styles of brooms, by continuing legacy, but by introducing it to a whole new group of people, that we can start to think differently about what it means to keep home.
What are some of the different ways to display brooms in your home and outside your home?
That is a great question. I think that brooms have become something that's like future trash. They're all made of plastic, and so we just hide them in a closet somewhere. And I think that negatively impacts us in a couple of ways. I think number one, obviously, there's an environmental impact on purchasing things that we know are going to end up in the garbage and never biodegrade. And that's what most cleaning supplies are now. But it also speaks to the invisibility of domestic labor, that we're almost embarrassed about it, so we hide it away in a closet. But having something that's handmade and that's beautiful, I think sometimes people see my work or see other contemporary broom makers' work and they look at it and they think, oh, I don't want to use this. It's too pretty. But you should use it because we deserve beauty. We deserve tools that are beautiful. And we deserve to be able to have something that we can use and then hang on the wall for everybody to see right afterwards. So one of my favorite things to see are photos of where people have chosen to display their brooms in their home. Some people keep them on their altars if they're small brooms. Some people have them hanging in their kitchen. One of my favorite things is whenever a kitchen witch shows me that they have their brooms hanging in their kitchen, or a green witch shows me that they have their brooms hanging right near their potting bench. So I think that these brooms, when they find their owner, they also find a place in your home. But wherever they're displayed, I think it should be proudly displayed.
I agree. I love displaying my brooms.
They deserve to be. They deserve to be displayed, and we deserve to feel pride in how we engage in ritual and housekeeping. It's not something that's an embarrassing task that we all have to do on like a Saturday. It should be something that we celebrate. And I think displaying our brooms is celebratory.
Yes. And the only brooms we should hide are the ones we get from the store like Walmart, the plastic brooms.
I agree. My dream is that we all stop buying those.
Yes. Now, there's something I have seen on social media over and over again, and that is when we move, we should buy a new broom and not take the old broom with us. What are your thoughts on that?
I absolutely agree with that. I think that when we think about the way that energy clings to things especially within the walls of our homes, I do agree that leaving the past within that broom, everything that it's seen and experienced and absorbed in our previous home, is a good idea. It's a good idea to bring in something new that's ready for the next chapter, which is typically when we're moving into a new space to live, it's because we're opening a new chapter in one way or another. So bringing a new tool with us, I think, is smart.
What do you suggest we do with the old brooms, in my case, when I move?
I have two things to say about that. I think it depends on the broom. I think brooms can come with you from previous homes. Whether or not they're in use is a different story. So if you have a heavily used broom that was your daily workhorse broom in your old space, if it's a natural broom, I would highly recommend that it gets put either in a compost pile or it gets burned. Or if it's a garbage broom, get rid of that anyway and get a beautiful handmade broom for your new space. But if you have brooms that weren't necessarily used, they were more display or they're part of your decor, please take those with you. It's a craftsman's work and it's part of your display. I think it's also okay to retire a broom. If you're not coming from a particularly traumatic past home situation, then take that broom with you and retire it and find a place of pride to display it in your home.
I like that choice.
Thank you. I like that choice too. Not everything needs to be gotten rid of.
I know, because they're too pretty to get rid of. Yours, at least.
They are. Yeah, thank you. They are, but sometimes we just need to retire tools. We've all done it before, whether it's a tarot deck or specific, crystal or whatever. We have things that served us, but that we don't use in our practice anymore. But we either find somebody who we give it to, or we just retire it for the time being. And I think that brooms can be the same way.
Okay, so you think that we can gift our old brooms to someone else?
I think, again, if it hasn't been a heavily used item, if it's something that's been part of your collection for display and you feel called, definitely. I would just, and I do recommend this with all new brooms anyway, although everything that I make is tied with intention, I still think it's a good idea when you bring a new tool into your home that you cleanse it in whatever way you feel is appropriate. So if you're going to gift a broom that you've used in any way to somebody else, then I would probably recommend doing at least a little bit of cleansing. If not you, then they should.
What methods of cleansing do you recommend?
I think everybody is really different with that. I know some people really enjoy using the moon cycles to engage in cleansing, just like you would with your crystals. I use a lot of smoke cleansing in my personal practice. And so smoke cleansing, I feel, is powerful for me. So I will do that with new tools, whether it's a broom or anything else.
Can you tell us any other folklore regarding the brooms? How we should display them, how we should not display them, and where?
I don't think I have any specific stuff about what not to do with a broom. But if you know anything, you're more than welcome to share that in this.
Okay, like I have brooms on my front porch for protection.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a welcome sign because not everything and everyone is welcome. So I'm not going to invite the unwelcome. Therefore, I have my brooms for protection.
Absolutely. And I think that speaks directly to placing them over your threshold. Placing them outside your door is even more of a beacon for what you invite in and what you don't. There is something just in terms of broom care. It's not necessarily folklore, but it's just general broom care, is that brooms should never be placed on their bristles. Because it's natural material, they will splay over time. And so to keep a natural broom working for decades, it needs to be hung, and it should be hung on the wall. But otherwise, I'm not an expert.
And you know what? They're a piece of art.
They are. They are a piece of art. Absolutely.
How do you recommend that witches stay on their brooms?
That is not the first time that somebody's asked me that question.
Have you been wanting to ride your broom like you stole it, rather than hiding in the shadows? Theodora Pendragon is here to help your magic shine, whether you want to show the world your subtle sparkle, or you really want to light your fire. Visit Theodora's online store at witchcasting.shop. That's witchcasting.shop. Remember, there's never been a better time to be a witch.
I'm trying to formulate this answer in my mind. I think that there's a serious answer to that. And I think that we've become so accustomed to viewing domestic labor as a chore that I think we have tried to find ways to make it faster and less labor intensive. And I think that it being faster and easier isn't the way to make it less labor intensive. I think that holding on to our brooms is a way for us to reconnect to everybody who's come before us and for the generations who are going to come after us. And so laying down things like our vacuum cleaner, which might sound funny, and instead switching it out for a broom again, I think forces us to engage in a mindful and meaningful act that gives us the space that we deserve to meditate. Slow is steady and steady is fast. So when we think about engaging in those rituals in our life, choosing something that might feel like the slower option is actually giving us the space that we deserve to focus on what's meaningful to us.
It's also
truly
a way to manifest while you're brooming.
I agree with you absolutely. 100%.
Have you heard any misconceptions about the use of brooms or making brooms?
Not really. I think most of the time everybody assumes that everything I make are witches' brooms, and it's only a witch's broom if a witch has it, right? I just make brooms. And how they're used in the home becomes up to the user themselves. I think that the association with witchcraft and broom use is just so ingrained in our collective psyche that I'd like to see that change a little bit. Obviously, I'd like to see the idea of what a witch is change a little bit. I actually don't identify as a witch. I am an animist and a folk magic practitioner. I love witches deeply, but that's not who I am. And I think that redefining how a broom is associated with a woman or with femininity can be a really freeing experience.
As a true artisan, you probably have had the experience at a market where someone comes and sees your lovely brooms that you have put your heart into when you made them. And they may think, oh my, they're so expensive. I can get a broom at Walmart or Target or the gas station, wherever. What would you tell these people?
I really absolve people of personal responsibility when it comes to that thought process, because that's something that our waste culture and something that capitalism has instilled in us is that we value fast and cheap. We value convenience over handcrafted. We also don't value labor in this country. And
You can do anything you want. You can swear if you want to.
Hey, hell yeah. Fuck yeah. All right. So we don't value labor in this country. We're a country that was built on the enslaved. So why would we start valuing the labor of somebody now? We like fast fashion. We like fast food. We think very little about the exploitation of the people who are picking our fruits and vegetables for us. So I know that that is not a failing of an individual. That's a failing of the system that we live in. Honestly, I don't really engage with people who their first impression is that everything is too expensive. I've learned quickly that it's not my job to change their mind. My work connects with the people that it's supposed to at the time that it's supposed to. My hope is that people who have that first initial impression, my hope is that they think about my work later at some point. And they think about handcrafted work later too. I hope it's just the first seed planted that helps them begin to change their mental framework for what it means to value something.
I do not think your brooms are too expensive, by the way.
Thank you.
That's why I have 3 of them.
You.
Yours, 3 of yours.
Thank you. And I think that they are appropriately priced as well. I really do strive to make my work accessible to people. You're also purchasing something that's meant to last. And I think that that's where we get hung up too, is that we have been conditioned to think that something like a broom is something you're going to use for a few months and then throw in the garbage. But a handmade broom is something that will last you decades.
Years ago, I was at a festival. It wasn't a witchy market. It was just a festival in a neighboring town. And I was with a couple of friends. And the first booth I saw was a broom booth. And I can't remember the name of the artisan, but they were beautiful handcrafted brooms like yours. And as soon as I saw them, I saw the broom that I had to have. I didn't want to leave it there in case somebody else wanted to buy it. So I bought it immediately, and I had to carry around the broom everywhere we went. One of my friends kept saying, I can't believe you spent $125 for that broom. I can't believe you spent $125 for that broom. And I said, well, you didn't pay for it.
You still have that
I do.
broom. I mean, that story goes back to exactly what I was talking about at the beginning, which is that broom chose you. It spoke directly to you. And I think that this craft specifically meets people where they are. And some people aren't ready to receive that, and that's okay. Maybe they will be in the future. But for those of us who are ready for that, it speaks loudly and it's hard to ignore.
It is like a magnet. There's my broom. I have to pay for it now. I don't care if I have to carry it around for 3 hours. It's mine.
You know, one of the most amazing things that I watch happen at almost every market I do is that somebody will come by and I can see it in their face that they're into it. And they pick up a broom and they hold it like it's the most precious thing they've ever seen. And sometimes right at that moment, they're like, I'm buying this broom. And sometimes they'll say, I'm going to look around more, but I might be back. And I just know that they're going to be back. And I tell them, the broom will be here for you. And maybe somebody else will come by and they'll pick up that broom, but nobody walks away with it until that original owner comes back. They always come back. I'm telling you, it is the most magical thing that I've ever witnessed. And I've never seen anything like that until I started selling brooms at market. And they don't even have to be witchy markets. You know, it can be just a craft market. Just a normie can have this mystical experience with the broom. And they may not realize it's happening, but I see it. And it's fantastic.
You were at a witchy market last year and you had a green broom. I don't know what color green you call that. Is it chartreuse?
Yeah, I think it was sort of a chartreuse.
I saw it. I thought, wow, is that ever beautiful? I walked away and I went down a few more booths and I thought, no, I'm not taking the chance that somebody else buys it. I have to get it now. So I came back and I bought it. And I was just so happy with my green broom.
I remember that. And it is, they have like a siren song that only the person who's supposed to own it can hear.
I have it sitting on my altar. So when I meditate, I look at that broom.
I love that. It's a calming color,
It is.
I think. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anything else you would like to tell the listeners before we sign off?
My hope for anybody who's listening to this is that some of these things that we've talked about today can help us start to reshape the way that we look at the domestic items in our home and start thinking about all the ways in which magic and folkcraft intersect in our daily lives. It doesn't mean you have to run out and buy a handmade broom, but we can start thinking about the things that we use on a daily basis or a weekly basis as ways to shift into ritual and away from chores.
You also offer classes, so you teach broom making.
I do, and it is my favorite thing to do. I love to teach more than I love to make brooms, if that's even possible. I teach altar broom making workshops at different witch shops around South Texas, and hopefully even further out than that. I have some things in the works right now. I also teach brush making classes. I have enjoyed making brushes as well. And when I say brushes, I mean anything from an artist paintbrush to a body brush, using some different fiber than what I use for my brooms. I am also available for one-on-one classes, or if you have a group of people that would like to learn broom making and you have a space to host, I am always available for that.
Do you
as well.
sell your brooms online?
I am going to be launching my website within the next month, so it should be up by the end of June.
Do you have a URL yet for your website?
I do. It's sisterwolfcraft.com.
I'll put all that in the episode notes. You're also on other social media platforms, so tell us where else we can find you and follow you.
I primarily do everything on Instagram. I'm sure my handle will be in the notes, right? Okay. So I'm underscore Sisterwolf underscore on Instagram. And I do pretty much everything through there. Another great way to keep up with me, though, is to go to my website and sign up for my newsletter. That's where I'll announce all upcoming classes and workshops and markets that I'll be doing every month, as well as you'll have the first announcement when I'm getting ready to do a new collection drop on the website.
I'll have to take a class with you.
I would love that. There's something very powerful about engaging in ritual tool making with a bunch of other people. And the type of people who are drawn to taking a broom class are just the most wonderful. I'm not biased at all, but truly, whenever I fill up a class and I'm looking at all these people looking back at me and I'm just thinking, you are the best of the best. It is the most incredible energy that I've ever felt. And I spent a lot of years teaching in a skilled trade and never felt that way. The people who are drawn to make brooms are the people that you want to be around.
I agree. Hey, thank you for sharing the magic with us today. This is wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really great.
Thank you for joining us for Witchcasting with Theodora Pendragon. Have a burning question or have a topic you'd love Theodora and her guests to discuss on the show? Contact her through Instagram at Theodora Pendragon. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And help us spread the word by leaving us a rating and review and sharing it with your friends. See you next time, and may your magic always shine.